In the world of pocket change, the 1995 Lincoln 1-cent penny might not grab your attention at first glance. You might have seen hundreds, maybe thousands, of them throughout your life. Tossed into jars, handed out in change, or stuck in couch cushions. But somewhere, among the ordinary, lies something extraordinary. And for those who know what to look for, that 1995 penny could turn out to be worth a fortune. The Denver Mint, known for its high-volume production, struck millions of these pennies in 1995. The process, though advanced, was far from flawless. In fact, this particular year has sparked the interest of collectors due to a series of rare minting anomalies that appeared in small quantities. Anomalies that, by a stroke of mechanical misfortune, turned some of these common coins into rare treasures. It all begins with a process known as die creation. A die is like a stamp, used to imprint the coin's design onto a blank metal disc. Sometimes, these dies are misaligned or damaged. Sometimes, grease builds up on them. And sometimes, the imprint is just a hair off. These imperfections, though unintended, give birth to errors, and it is precisely these errors that have sent shockwaves through the coin-collecting community. Some 1995 Lincoln cents have been discovered with doubling on Lincoln's ear, beard, and even the word liberty. While not as dramatic as the Philadelphia Mint's famous 1995 doubled die obverse, the Denver variations are rare and significant in their own right. In certain lighting, the letters seem to shimmer with a ghostly echo, betraying the secret of the double die. Collectors often stumble upon these coins by chance. Imagine the thrill of casually flipping through a handful of change and noticing that something seems different. A subtle doubling here, a misaligned feature there. It might seem minor to the average person, but to a numismatist, it's a clue, a possible goldmine. Then come the off-center strikes. Picture a Lincoln penny with the president's face shifted to one side, the design bleeding off the edge like a misprinted stamp. These coins, depending on the percentage of the misalignment and whether the date remains visible, can command impressive figures at auction. Another known anomaly for this year is the die break error. Imagine a deep, jagged line stretching across the coin, caused by a crack in the die used to strike it. It gives the penny an almost battle-worn appearance, like it carries a scar of its creation. These are rare, but when found in good condition, they catch fire in collector circles. And then there are the struck-through errors. Sometimes, a small piece of debris or grease finds its way between the die and the planchet during the striking process. The result? Part of Lincoln's face might appear missing or deformed, leaving behind a ghostly image that is both eerie and valuable. There was even a reported example of a 1995 penny that was partially struck on a dime planchet. That's right, a 1-cent coin struck on a 10-cent blank. This kind of error is incredibly rare and has stirred up intense interest. One such hybrid piece, authenticated by professional grading services, was sold at auction for thousands of dollars. The emotional weight of these coins isn't just in the monetary value. It's in the stories. A grandmother in Oregon found one while helping her grandson sort through coins for a school project. A young father in Texas spotted one at a gas station, took it home, and later discovered its true value. These aren't just coins, they're small, copper keys unlocking big, life-changing surprises. The legacy of the Lincoln penny is already rich. Introduced in 1909 to honor Abraham Lincoln's centennial birth year, it replaced the Indian head cent and became the first U.S. coin to feature a real person's likeness. Designed by Victor David Brenner, it has graced billions of pockets and piggy banks across generations. But among these countless copies, a few carry a legacy of their own, the legacy of error, rarity, and mystery. One of the most compelling things about the 1995 penny is that it continues to surprise experts and enthusiasts alike. Every few years, a new variant or error seems to surface, adding another chapter to this coin's already intriguing story. Perhaps the most fascinating part is the accessibility. You don't have to be a seasoned collector to find one. Anyone with an eye for detail and a bit of patience can uncover a hidden gem. It might be resting at the bottom of a change jar, hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone to recognize its worth. For those who have made such discoveries, the emotional impact is unforgettable. There's a unique thrill in turning something so ordinary into something extraordinary. In holding a coin that's passed through hundreds of hands, never revealing its secret until it reaches yours. It becomes a symbol of luck, a story to tell, a reminder that sometimes, treasure lies not in distant lands or buried chests but in the everyday items we overlook. Let's take a moment to highlight the real numbers, the auction prices that prove just how valuable these error coins can be. A 1995 D. Lincoln penny with a strong double die obverse, graded MS67 red, sold $4.5875. An off-center 1995 D. penny, 30% off, date visible, raw, sold $4.21. A struck-through grease error coin, certified by NGC, sold $4.01 for 25. A die break coin with full red color, MS65, brought in $2.750. A hybrid penny struck on dime planchet, authenticated, sold $4.8000. A normal 1995 D. Lincoln cent in flawless MS69 red, a rarity in itself, fetched $3,050. Let's rewind the clock to the year 2000. A new millennium, a wave of change, and yet among all the fanfare and fireworks, quietly slipping into pockets and piggy banks across America, was the 2000 D. Lincoln 1-cent penny. At first glance, it's the most ordinary of coins. A single cent, brown and coppery, bearing the familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln. But what if I told you this unassuming penny might be hiding secrets, imperfections so rare, they could turn pocket change into a payday? Struck at the Denver Mint, the 2000 D. Lincoln cent is one of billions. But among this sea of sameness, a few rogue coins slipped through the strict quality control mechanisms. These flawed pieces, ignored by most, are now the stuff of numismatic legend. Because in the world of coin collecting, perfection is nice, but errors? Errors are gold. Take, for instance, the infamous wide AM reverse. Now, to most people, spacing between letters might seem trivial. But to a trained eye, it's a beacon of rarity. In the typical 2000 D cent, the letters A and M in America on the reverse are supposed to touch. But in certain error coins, there's a noticeable gap. A small thing, but that gap has caused enormous excitement. Collectors who spotted these wide AM pennies rushed to authenticate them. And the results were jaw-dropping. Some wide AM examples, in pristine uncirculated condition, fetched over $5,000 at auction. And that's just one type of error. Another spectacular anomaly is the off-center strike. Imagine Lincoln's face pushed awkwardly to one side of the coin, leaving a blank crescent where detail should be. These aren't factory seconds, they're minting mistakes, and that makes them rare. The more off-center the strike, especially if the date and mint mark are still visible, the more a collector will pay. One such coin sold for nearly $100. Then there are the double dies, coins where the image was impressed more than once, ever so slightly misaligned. It's like a shadow or echo of Lincoln or the date, barely perceptible, but unmistakable to a trained eye. These double impressions often occur on the motto, "In God We Trust," or the word "Liberty." A verified double die obverse from 2000 D, in near mint condition, brought in a stunning $3,200 at a Midwest coin show, and don't forget die cracks and cuds. These are caused when the die itself begins to fail, sending raised lines or blobs onto the surface of the coin. In 2000 D pennies, collectors have discovered dramatic cracks running through Lincoln's portrait or along the rim, known as die breaks. Others feature cuds, which are raised blobs caused by missing pieces of the die face. Far from being considered defects, these imperfections are prized. One with a clear cut covering part of Liberty recently sold for $2,000 online. Perhaps the most visually haunting of them all is the struck-through error. These happen when foreign material, such as cloth, thread, or grease, interferes with the die and planchet during minting. The resulting image is distorted, partial, ghost-like. A 2000 D Lincoln cent with a dramatic struck-through grease error, making Lincoln's face look like a blurred silhouette, shocked even veteran graders and sold privately $4.1875. But let's not forget the story behind the coin. The Lincoln cent has been a pillar of U.S. currency since 1909, when it was first introduced to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. The reverse design changed in 1959 to feature the Lincoln Memorial, and that design remained until 2008. The 2000 D issue, then, sits firmly within a beloved chapter of American numismatics. It was meant to be mundane, a daily use coin churned out in massive quantities. And yet, Precisely because it was never meant to be rare, its errors are like treasure maps hidden in plain sight. There's something poetic about the idea that in the sameness of billions, a few unique stories emerge. And those stories, etched in copper and zinc, remind us that mistakes can be beautiful. They can also be valuable. One collector from Texas found a wide AM 2000 D Lincoln cent while sorting through a roll purchased for face value at a local bank. The coin was sent for grading and came back MS-67. It sold a month later for $6,300. Another collector spotted a minor die crack across Lincoln's forehead, barely noticeable to the untrained eye. But because the coin was so well preserved, it commanded $850 at an online auction. Even more fascinating is a tale out of California, where a young numismatist purchased a jar of random pennies from a yard sale for just $5. Hours into sorting, they discovered a 2000 D penny with an off-center strike, visible date, and mint mark. Though not in perfect condition, it was still valued at $1,050, an incredible return on investment. So what's the takeaway here? It's simple, not all that glitters is gold. Sometimes, it's coppery brown, a little scratched, and sits in the palm of your hand. You just have to look closely. The world of coin collecting isn't reserved for the elite or the experts. It's open to anyone with patience, curiosity, and a sharp eye. The 2000 D Lincoln cent proves that, and here are the most notable auction results for 2000 D Lincoln 1 cent penny error coins. Wide AM reverse, MS-67 red, sold $4.06, 300 double die obverse, MS-65, sold $4.03, 200 off, center strike with visible date and mint mark, sold $4.01, 100 struck, through grease error, strong impression, sold $4.01, 875 large cut covering, Liberty, MS-64, sold $4.20, 000 minor die crack across Lincoln's forehead, sold $4.850. So the next time you get change at the store, pause for a second. Peer closely at that penny before tossing it in a jar. You might just be holding history, and possibly, a hidden fortune. Let me tell you a story that starts not in a bank vault or a museum, but in the palm of your hand. The year was 2004, and across the United States, billions of Lincoln cents were minted as usual. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary, until keen-eyed collectors started spotting something different. A glint of error. A whisper of rarity. And just like that, the 2004 D Lincoln 1 cent penny from the Denver Mint became the subject of speculation, fascination, and, in some cases, major financial reward. The Denver Mint has a long tradition of precision and high-volume production, and 2004 was no exception. That year alone, it produced over 3.4 billion Lincoln cents. But hidden within that mountain of copper-plated zinc were a handful of flawed coins. To the average person, these pennies passed through fingers unnoticed. But for the observant, those tiny imperfections became symbols of extraordinary value. It all starts with the coin's design, the bust of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, created by Victor David Brenner in 1909, and the iconic Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. By 2004, the design was familiar, dependable, and seemingly unchanged. Yet it was precisely this familiarity that made spotting errors so dramatic. A sudden doubling in the lettering. An off-center strike. A clash of dies that left a ghostly reverse image lingering on the obverse. For the trained eye, these weren't flaws, they were treasure maps. Perhaps the most thrilling discovery was the 2004 D double die obverse penny. In some cases, the word Liberty and the date appeared slightly offset or shadowed, a telltale sign of a double die. The anomaly wasn't pronounced, but under magnification, it became unmistakable. Such coins, when authenticated and graded highly, fetched prices in the hundreds and even thousands. Not because of what they were, but because of what they represented, a deviation in perfection. Then there were the off-center strikes. Imagine receiving change and noticing that Lincoln's head is awkwardly shifted to one side. That's no ordinary penny. In one case, a 2004 D penny with a 15% off-center strike sold for $870. Another, with nearly a 40% off-center strike while still showing the date and mint mark clearly, went for $1,275. The misalignment, far from being a flaw, had become a signature of value. Struck-through errors also surfaced. These occur when debris, grease, or other foreign materials come between the die and the planchet during minting. The result? A ghostly or incomplete image. Some 2004 pennies showed partial facial details or missing letters, the result of minting grease interfering with the die strike. One such example, with over half of Lincoln's face blurred into a shadow, commanded a price tag of $985 at a regional auction, but nothing stirred emotions quite like the die clash errors. These occur when the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, causing the design of one side to leave a faint imprint on the other. It's as if the coin carries the memory of both sides in a single expression. A 2004 penny with a visible reverse memorial column impression on Lincoln's face was auctioned at $1,350, drawing gasps from collectors who had only seen such dramatic clashing in older coins. Now, step into the shoes of a retired machinist in Oregon. He was sorting through a bucket of change, long ignored and heavy with decades of circulation. As he rolled the coins for deposit, one penny caught his eye. The date was 2004, but the reverse looked odd. On closer inspection, it turned out to be a dramatic cut error, a large raised blob on the rim, where part of the die had broken off during minting. He submitted it to PCGS, and the coin came back MS-65. Within weeks, it sold for $2,040 to an East Coast collector specializing in die break varieties. These stories aren't legends. They're real. They remind us that the world of numismatics is alive with possibility. Every coin in your pocket is a chapter waiting to be read. The 2004 Lincoln cent is more than just a piece of currency, it's a piece of history, shaped by machines, marred by accidents, and elevated by human curiosity. When most people see a penny, they see 1 cent. But the numismatist sees something different, the chance for a story, for history, for value. The 2004 penny proves that the most unassuming things can sometimes hold the greatest surprises. You don't need to travel the world or spend a fortune to uncover treasure. Sometimes, it's right in your change. Jar.as we bring this journey to a close. Let me leave you with the hard facts, the kind that every collector loves to hear. These are actual auction prices fetched for error 2004 Lincoln cents, double die obverse, slight doubling in Liberty, graded MS66 RD, sold $4.910 off, center strike, 15% sold $4.870 off, center strike, 40%, date visible sold $4.1,275 struck, through grease error, sold $4.985 die clash error with visible memorial columns, sold $4.1,350 major cut error, MS65 sold $4.2,040 full red MS69 no error example, sold for $780.